Welcome, everyone. I want to welcome you to What is a Bad Bunny? After Bad Bunny was announced for the Super Bowl halftime show, that was the #1 search on Google for the next couple days, is what is a Bad Bunny, so that's why we named it this. I want to introduce to you a very special person. Kirsten Anderson is going to lead us through tonight. Not only is she Puerto Rican, but she is a huge Bad Bunny fan, probably a bigger fan of Bad Bunny than anyone else in this room, including myself. She is a deputy legal director at the Southern Poverty Law Center and has dedicated her life to social justice and representing those on the margins that the law wasn't meant to work for. And she's an incredible person and also happens to be my wife. And so without further ado, what is a Bad Bunny? Thank you, Kirsten.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is so exciting. We get to talk about my favorite thing in the world. And I don't even have to pause in case there's another topic of discussion that someone wants to bring up. We can just talk about Bad Bunny for the next hour. As Andy said, my name is Kirsten Anderson, and I use the pronouns she, her, ella in Spanish. And also welcome to the people online. We had a lot of interest. We're glad you're here. And I'm just so excited to share my joy, my appreciation for Bad Bunny. A bit about me, as Andy said, I'm Puerto Rican, and I am one of the more than 1 million Floridians who are Puerto Rican, who live here. And my mom's Puerto Rican, she lives on the island. And I also studied Spanish literature, Latin American history, and politics, and so I am bringing that lens to you tonight. You're probably going to be amazed at how much we're going to talk about what his music really means, besides just being a good time. And this is for everyone, whether you know anything about Bad Bunny or you know a lot, if you know Spanish, if you don't know Spanish, and we're going to just talk about this and how great was that dinner tonight that Bruce did. It was really wonderful. So when Bad Bunny was announced as the halftime performer, there were some interesting reactions. And here's an example of some of them.
Meanwhile, the magosphere is very fired up about the news that Bad Bunny is doing the Super Bowl halftime.
So you heard about this guy, Bunny? Is that his name? Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny. It's yet another reason to not watch football. It stinks. Roger Goodell and all those criminals, they can have their money. Boycott it, read a book, go to church. I'm serious. NFL, no freaking life. I'll get back to you on the L. I'll be right back.
How about this L? This is the one my kids would give you. Oh man, so much outrage. One of Trump's top hench weasels, Homeland Security Advisor Corey Lewandowski, is very angry at the NFL too. He said it is so shameful that they decided to pick someone who just seems to hate America so much. We said the same thing the day after the election, and then he said there are plenty of great bands and entertainment people out there who could be playing at that show that would be bringing people together and not separating them. Do these people even hear themselves talking? So now, because this bunny is so very bad, they're planning to have ICE agents present at the Super Bowl. I guess, there's a reason. ICE heard there was a field where brown people get tackled, and they're like, hey, that's our job.
So the idea that Bad Bunny as a choice is too political may have something to do with his politics and his music, but it has more to do with his identity and the idea that being Puerto Rican, even though Puerto Rico is people who are there are U.S. citizens, are outside of the concept of what is considered American. and being a Spanish-speaking recording artist from Puerto Rico. Bad Bunny is the stage name for this Puerto Rican musician, Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio. He rose to fame with a variety of dance hits, urban Latino music styles like reggaeton and trap. And not only will he be performing at the Super Bowl, but he just came off of an incredible week at the Grammys. He won Album of the Year, the first time a Spanish language album won. It's not the first time a Latino artist won. Santana did that about 25 years ago. And this is the album that he won this for, and it's called Debí Tirar Más Fotos. And that means I should have taken more photographs. The album cover, as you can see, it's a typical scene in Puerto Rico, and it's got two chairs. So he's talking about how he should have taken more photographs, but there's no people in the picture. And so it really evokes this feeling of memory, of loss, of longing, of nostalgia for the past. And it's really a theme that carries through the whole island when he's really talking about displacement of Puerto Ricans from their island and the threat of gentrification that people face. So there's kind of a personal and a political meaning here. There's also, this album is unique in the sense that it doesn't sound like anyone else. It is very uniquely Bad Bunny. It was the most streamed album of 2025. Certainly was my most streamed album of 2025. And it's really rejecting the common wisdom that to be a crossover artist, to have appeal outside of your culture, that you have to assimilate, that you have to translate, that you have to sound like other people. And what he has done is not only is he speaking Spanish, but he's speaking Puerto Rican Spanish. He's using his slang. It's his dialect. And he code switches between English and Spanish. Actually, a lot of times when I'm like, what word was that? I realized it was an English word that he was saying. And there's really this sense of joy and resistance that kind of centers the Puerto Rican identity and experience throughout this album. I really have, I could probably teach this for an entire semester, but I have pared it down for you in 1 hour. So we're going to just explore a little bit on the surface of these themes through some of the songs from the album so you can gain an appreciation for the rich symbolism that's in this music. So the first thing we're going to look at is the Super Bowl ad that came out, teasing his performance.
Ya ni puedo dormir, lo que hago es soñarte. No te puedo olvidar, no te puedo borrar. Tú me enseñaste a querer, me enseñaste a bailar. Mi diablo, mi ángel, mi loquito, ay. No te puedo olvidar, no te puedo.
So this song that was teased in the ad is a song called Baile Inolvidable, and it means unforgettable dance. In the chorus, he's singing of a love that he cannot forget, cannot erase from his memory. The love who taught him how to dance, who taught him how to love. And it's just kind of this joyful celebration. It's really significant because salsa, which I'll talk about a little bit more, hasn't ever really cracked, the top of the charts until Bad Bunny. And so that was really exciting. And it's also, this song was a collaboration with a public arts school of music in Puerto Rico. And so he's really showcasing the importance of public education and funding for the arts in Puerto Rico, which has faced a lot of challenges. If Puerto Rico were its own country, and Puerto Rico is an archipelago of islands, the biggest of which is only 35 miles wide by 100 miles across. About 3 million people live there. If Puerto Rico were its own country, it would be the 7th largest exporter of music in the world. So this is really him kind of showcasing the talent is there, that we can just kind of develop it if we invest in it. So the next song we're going to talk about is called Nueva York. And that, it's Nueva York. Him having the L in writing is a nod to the the Puerto Rican accent that replaces the R's at the end of words with an L. And so that's just kind of another way that he's kind of claiming that identity. This song is the first song on the album. Now, this is an entire album about Puerto Rico, but the first song on the album is about New York. Why? New York's really been the center of the diaspora, of all the Puerto Ricans who don't live on the island but live on the mainland of the United States. At this point, roughly 2/3 of Puerto Ricans live on the mainland, including myself, and the other 1/3 live on the island. New York's historically been the center of this diaspora, and the term Nuyorican was even coined for people who were Puerto Ricans who lived in New York. And it was really originally sort of pejorative. It was a way to distinguish and divide real Puerto Ricans from the island, from Puerto Ricans who lived in the United States. But Bad Bunny, starting his album with Nueva York, is really reconceptualizing Puerto Rican identity that is big enough for all of us. And it encompasses everybody without division. Salsa is a fusion of Afro-Cuban rhythms and Puerto Rican rhythms with jazz and soul. Salsa doesn't happen without New York City and all of the immigrants that are there. He samples a song from a famous salsa band from Puerto Rico, so he's really connecting generations in this song. There's a lot of older people who maybe didn't listen to Bad Bunny, but know this song because it was a famous song in the 70s. And so it's connecting people across the generations. And he's also fusing it with a modern rhythm called dembow, which is also kind of a mixture of Afro-Caribbean rhythms that only happens because of New York. So we're gonna listen to this video that was released on July 4th, 2025. And it's really centering the experience of the Puerto Rican and Latinx diasporas who are not experiencing the liberty and freedom that is promised by this country.
Mistake. I want to apologize to the immigrants in America. I'm in the United States. I know America is the whole continent. I want to say that this country is nothing without the immigrants. This country is nothing without Mexicans, Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, Colombians, Venezuelans, Cubans, Honduras.
Tú tienes piquete, mami, yo también. Tú estás buena, yo estoy bueno también. Huelo rico y ando con los de 100. Si tú lo quieres, lo tienes que mover. Tú tienes piquete, mami, yo también. Tú estás buena, yo estoy bueno también. Huelo rico y ando con los de 100. Si tú lo quieres, lo tienes que mover. Lo tienes que mover. Lo tienes que mover. Lo tienes que mover. Lo tienes que mover.
So that's just a clip of the song, and there is so much to unpack even in that one clip. But one thing I just want to point out is that the cultural celebration and the joy is inseparable from the politics of the song, that they are directly connected. And when the only English in it is an AI-generated Trump who's apologizing to immigrants. It's really an act of futurism, visioning a world in which it's different, and the vision of liberty and freedom for this country includes all of us. It's also contrasted by how they're even consuming his speech, because it's kind of this communal experience, but they're around a radio. And so there's kind of this idea that Trump and his policies are this anachronism, and we need to shut them off. He also has these call-outs of other countries. So I think a lot of times when we see what's going on with ICE and the sweeps, there's sometimes this idea, like people have said about Bad Bunny, oh, well, you're going to send ICE, but he's American. He's not he's a U.S. citizen. He's not an immigrant. But Bad Bunny doesn't do that. He doesn't say, oh, we're different, we're better. He claims everybody and is talking about this idea that we're not divided by claims of citizenship, but there's a broader solidarity with all Latinx people. Another thing that's really the flag on the Statue of Liberty. So Bad Bunny didn't make that up himself. That is a nod to two different famous protests that happened with the Statue of Liberty and people occupying it to put a Puerto Rican flag on there to protest U.S. policies of colonialism. The one that we're going to talk about a little bit later happened in the 70s. And really this idea of the Statue of Liberty, you can't vote for president if you live on the island. You have no representation in Congress. Federal funds are limited. Access to federal programs are different. There's laws to make it so you don't have to pay certain kinds of taxes that have attracted a lot of venture capitalists and very wealthy people who are trying to privatize beaches and are gentrifying and raising the cost of living and displacing people. And so by displaying this flag, it's really kind of reclaiming the Statue of Liberty for a different vision of the future. And so the other thing that's important is that it was a crime to display the Puerto Rican flag for many years. So that's probably why Puerto Ricans are very in your face with our flag, because it has been kind of this contested object and symbol. I do want to talk about the flag a little bit, because the flag that he has there is light blue. And that is actually not the official flag. The official flag is in this photo. This is me in Puerto Rico, and I'm standing between the U.S. flag and the Puerto Rican flag. And you can maybe not totally see it, but the Puerto Rican flag is the same color blue as the U.S. flag. This is the official government flag. The flag on the Statue of Liberty in the video was a lighter blue, like the flag in this next photo. This was a photo I took in Old San Juan. It was a mural, and it has a sign that says, we're not selling our land, and it has the light blue on the flag. This is a pro-independence flag, so it's signaling a message about Bad Bunny's politics around Puerto Rican status by using that particular flag in the protest. So one of the famous protests that he's referencing is one by the Young Lords, which was a pro-independence movement in 1977. And this is a quote from one of them, that they had seized the Statue of Liberty to expose to the world the hypocrisy of the United States that projects itself as a beacon of freedom, when in fact it is a colonizer of Puerto Ricans and unjustly imprisons us when we challenge their rule. Puerto Rico, for those of you who don't know, was transferred during the Spanish-American War from Spain to the United States. So Puerto Rico has been a colony of, first a European power and then the United States for hundreds of years. And so that those politics around the status, whether it continues to be in this sort of second class related to the United States, whether it's going to become a state or whether it's going to become independent, really shapes politics on the island. And I think Bad Bunny clearly is communicating to us in a lot of ways, including in lyrics of his songs, which side of that he's on, which appears to be pro-independence. Related to kind of this idea of Puerto Ricans as second-class citizens, I want to reference you to what Bad Bunny said during his Grammy speech. So his first speech that he said, he led with "Ice out." But then he said, "We're not savages, we're not aliens." Those words were very specific and intentional. And he is referencing Supreme Court decisions from the early 1900s called the Insular cases. And these are cases that kind of endorsed having a separate type of citizenship or separate and unequal treatment of the territories that the United States had at the time, which included Puerto Rico. And in particular, the court said that this was okay because these places were inhabited by what the court considered alien races and savage tribes. These decisions have never been overruled. This is the same Supreme Court that decided Plessy versus Ferguson, which was the separate but equal on issues of race in the United States that was later overruled. But these cases have not and have continued to be relied on by the Supreme Court, including recently. The other thing that was really significant about him saying "Ice out" and his Spanish language album at the Grammys in the context of what's happening right now, where the Supreme Court also endorsed racial profiling on the basis of your ethnicity and whether or not you speak a language like Spanish, that is sufficient to stop you and ask for your papers. So he's really confronting that in this moment and in his music. Moving on to the actual song that is the lead song on the album. I'm going to show you a clip of this song from his residency in Puerto Rico. This was really historic. Rather than doing a Las Vegas residency or something like that, he had a residency on the island. And the first shows were open only to Puerto Ricans at affordable prices so that they could go and not get outpriced by tourists. And then the other ones were opened up and generated tons of revenue for the island during hurricane season, when it's usually a slow season. It was really kind of an amazing cultural phenomenon. And the song itself, this title song, is called Aplena, which I grew up listening to because my mom was always playing these old albums. And it's really the folkloric music. It's the music from the mountains. And it's developed from bamba, which is an Afro-Puerto Rican tradition. And the group that he's singing with is a group that kind of preserves these traditional songs. You'll see just kind of the chorus of this song in this next clip.
Pa'l perreo, la salsa, la bomba y la plena. Abraza al que tiene al lado y canta con el corazón. Debí tirar fotos de cuando te tuve, debí darte más besos y abrazos las veces que pude. Ojalá que los míos nunca se muden. Que se sienta Puerto Rico, debí tirar fotos de cuando te tuve, debí darte más besos y abrazos las veces que pude. Ojalá que los míos nunca se muden. Y que tú me envíes más no, 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 no. No, no, no.
De esta manera.
So that's a song. I'm sure you'll hear it. And if you saw the Grammys, Trevor Noah kept trying to get him to sing this song because he was contractually obligated not to. And so there was a really fun moment where he was doing that. I'll talk about a couple of other little songs on this this album. We're not going to kind of play them all, but there's when you look at like even the titles of the song, and some of them are like, really fun, like club jams, and like you have one called Boquete, which is about potholes, which is a big issue in Puerto Rico, and there's one called Turista that's really talking about all of the problems that tourists kind of can cause. Like they bring revenue and they bring attention, but there can be kind of all kinds of issues if that's really extractive. And there's this really beautiful song on the album called What Happened to Hawaii. And he talks about how he doesn't want what happened to Puerto Rico, what happened to Hawaii to happen to Puerto Rico. And it's pretty significant because Hawaii and Puerto Rico kind of came into U.S. possession around the same time, and then Hawaii became a state and has experienced incredible displacement of the native population there, high cost of living, all kinds of issues related to like privatization of beaches and things like that. And in Puerto Rico, he talks about how, they want to take my river, they want to take my beaches, they want to take, the house where my grandmother was born. And so he's really singing very passionately about this, idea of what statehood honestly would look like for Puerto Rico. I think there's like something very powerful about him choosing Hawaii in that particular song. I remember how I said that a lot of our politics are organized around status, and so he's really saying statehood is not necessarily, where we need to go because of these things. And that maybe that song you won't hear like on the radio. It's a very slow song, but it's a really beautiful one that also has sounds of the island. And so you'll hear like a rooster crowing, and you'll hear the sound of the coqui, which is a tree frog. And so he's really kind of rooting us in place. And it's the song where he lays out what there is to lose, what he's so afraid of. And he talks about how, in another song in the album, he talks about how people had to leave for Orlando, Orlando, Florida. And he talks about how in Orlando, people were leaving mainly after Hurricane Maria, because not only did the hurricane come through and have a lot of destruction, but the lights went out for a year. There was no electricity for a year. And that caused kind of incredible hardships. And there was also a lot of movement because people had moved and then they go back to the island afterwards. And a lot of people have left because of a lack of opportunity. And so, this idea of he doesn't want people to leave, but at the same time, people do have to leave. And I saw an interview with him about why he wrote this album, and he said it was the first time he'd ever lived away from Puerto Rico. He had been living in LA, he'd been filming movies, he'd been doing things like that. And that really pulled him back and made him want to really write this kind of love letter to the island about how much he loved and cared for it. And so, there's kind of all of that going on in this album. But Bad Bunny's also just like fun and joyful. And we're gonna play another little clip, which is also from his Residency, which is a song that a lot of people have probably heard, Titi Me Preguntó, which he's basically just saying like his auntie, that's what I call my aunts too, Titi, his auntie was asking him if he has many girlfriends. And he starts naming them. He's like, starts listing off, Maria and Teresa and, Gabriela and, all these people. But no one he's marrying. It's just, and so the whole song is just about like kind of getting asked by your relative, like, hey, when are you getting married? Like, do you have a girlfriend? That kind of experience. And then he just turns it into this like really fun, joyful song. So we're going to play that next.
Todo el mundo con la mano arriba, mano arriba, mano arriba. Titi me preguntó, Titi me preguntó, allá arriba, allá arriba, allá arriba. Titi me preguntó, Titi me preguntó.
Pero ven acá, muchacho, ¿para qué tú quieres tanta novia?
Me la voy a llevar la top, un VIP, ey. Saluden a Titi, vamos a tirar un selfie. 6 chis, que se ríen la calle a la Matías. Un VIP, ey. Saluden a Titi, vamos a tirar un selfie. 6 chis, que se ríen la que se olvidaron ya de mí.
Oye, muchacho, el diablo azaroso. Suéltese más vivir que tú tienes en la calle. Búscate una mujer seria para ti. Muchacho, el diablo, coño.
I'm going to pause there and take any questions. Yes?
Why is the Puerto Rican flag not like a thing like in America? Like,
Why isn't Puerto Rico? Okay. So the question was, why isn't Puerto Rico a state, or, have...
why was it like a symbol like on like the United Statue of Liberty? Like, why isn't it more accepted thing like in the United States? Like why is it like a thing like where people like aren't accepting it, or is it like more just like an American flag, I guess? Why couldn't they show their flag?
Oh, why couldn't they show their flag in Puerto Rico? Oh, yes, because there was a law against it that prohibited it. So Puerto Rico gets taken from Spain in a war, and the reason we have Puerto Rico is because of its strategic importance for military purposes, and that continues to be the case today. Actually, the other protests that I didn't show with the Statue of Liberty was Tito Kayak, who's an environmentalist, who put the flag up on the Statue of Liberty to protest U.S. naval bombing of Vieques, which is one of the islands in the archipelago of Puerto Rico. And it's this spectacular, pristine, amazing beaches, and the U.S. Navy was like using it as its bombing range. Like I was there one time, and it was like, oh, this beach is closed because we found live ordnances on it, and we need to clear it up. And it's just like, and so they were, running operations and military training exercises from there, and so there was a whole, series of kind of confrontations with the military kind of over that, and then. Right now, with what's going on with Venezuela and the bombing of the boats that they say are running drugs, they're staging that out of Puerto Rico. A lot of people got stuck in Puerto Rico the weekend that we, abducted the president of Venezuela because they had to kind of close those airspaces. But there has been quite a military buildup on the island during this administration as it relates to kind of the U.S.'s strategic interests in Latin America. And so that, that's just like this feature of U.S. colonialism towards the island. And that is, really informing kind of how the Puerto Rican experience is happening, because it's not about the people who are there or whether they want to become part of the state or whatever. It's like it's kind of strategic importance. And Puerto Ricans don't become citizens until the early part of the 20th century by an act of Congress. And so that's why there is citizenship. And at various points in time, Congress has allowed people to vote on like whether they want to become a state or not, but nobody's kind of really required to listen to it. There's kind of no real pathway for Puerto Ricans themselves to kind of have their own agency and decide what they want to be. And so that's really, what shapes the experience. And actually, if any of you moved to Puerto Rico, you wouldn't be able to vote for the president either. Because as long as you're residing on the island, and you wouldn't have representation in Congress and things like that. So, yes.
If we moved anywhere else in the world, would we still vote for the president?
Outside of the U.S., you're saying yes. As long as you don't live in Puerto Rico, yes. If you're not in Puerto Rico, if you're kind of staying somewhere else, yes. If you live in Puerto Rico, no. But if you're Puerto Rican, you're born in Puerto Rico, and you move to the United States, you can vote for the president. And so it's kind of an interesting geographic loss of citizenship. I don't know, that sort of happens. And actually, that case that I was talking about, putting on my lawyer hat for a second, that case that I was talking about that the Supreme Court's still relying on these old cases that say that they're savages and alien races, was about Social Security benefits. And it was somebody who was living in New York and getting Social Security and had moved back to the island and was no longer kind of entitled to receive the same benefits, and then got kind of sued and prosecuted by the federal government. And so it kind of presented this interesting question where it's somebody who's like paid in, is entitled to the benefits, would be entitled to the benefits in New York, but just like aren't because they're now residing on the island. And kind of long story short, but the Supreme Court still is like, it continues to be fine to treat them differently and to have different rules as it relates to the island. So there's a lot and going on in terms of, I don't know, like how you like put one foot here and you're kind of less of a citizen than if you have the other foot over there. Any other questions? Yes.
Something that's always been troubling to me is how divided Puerto Ricans are over what they want. So even going back to like Don Pedro's revolution in the 1950s, like even then people were really divided over what Puerto Rico should want in a relationship with the whole United States. I'm curious, does Bad Bunny talk about this in his music, and how does he respond to Puerto Ricans who don't want independence?
Yeah, I don't know that he really. I'll repeat the question. So the question is, that Puerto Ricans are divided on this issue of status, and how does Bad Bunny kind of respond or grapple to that with that? I don't know that I have a clear answer to that, other than he clearly makes his own views known. There's this really interesting line in one of the songs where he references a famous Puerto Rican thinker and figure who was really pro-independence, Eugenio Hostos, and he was famously buried in the Dominican Republic and said, "I don't want my body brought back to the United States to Puerto Rico until it's free, until it's independent." And Bad Bunny has this line in one of his songs where he says, "Like Hostos, I hope that you're singing my song, when there's independence." So he's very, very clear. Like he's clearly putting himself there. He was on the cover of a magazine, and it was like just like a portrait of Hostos. So he's like very clearly identifying himself as a figure of independence, but clearly kind of like I said in the album, he starts with New York as his first thing, and there's a lot more Puerto Ricans who live here in the United States than who live on the island. So the other question is like, who's also getting to decide? Should it be like the people who are residing on the island who would have to deal with whatever happens, versus all of the people who live here? So yeah, I definitely, I think that it continues to be an issue that really informs kind of politics on the island, but it's also something that's very, I think he's taken a very clear stance as to what his view is. Other questions? Well, for me, I've been posting, on Instagram kind of constantly about Bad Bunny. If anyone follows me, that's like my only content. But I saw this really funny post that said, for the next 7 to 10 days, I'm going to be insufferable about Bad Bunny. Thank you very much. And I'm really looking forward to the Super Bowl. And the concert, and I hope you all enjoy it.
We do have one Zoom question before we wrap up. Whitney asks, keeping in mind what you said about the political not being able to be removed from the cultural, has Bad Bunny always had political messages in his music? If not, was there a particular moment or incident that sparked him to be more vocal through his music?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I was really focusing on this album. I don't know if I could say always. I'm thinking about kind of some of his really early stuff that was really more like something you would listen to at the club. And really great stuff. Like there's a great song that he did with Cardi B, which a lot of people are hoping to see Sunday because she's going to also be around. Which is it was a kind of a remake of the Celia Cruz song, I Like It Like That. And so there's a lot of like really fun stuff in his early catalog, but he also has political things kind of even throughout. One notable example is a song called El Apagón, which is like the blackout. And so he's talking about the issues with Puerto Rico's electrical grid. And if you watch the music video, he drops a documentary in the middle of the music video about Puerto Rico's electrical grid and issues with gentrification and how people are getting pushed out of their houses and how the lights are going off. Bad Bunny did a concert in Puerto Rico a few years ago, and he just went on a diatribe on stage against the electrical company and was talking about how hard it is to have a concert in Puerto Rico because they have to have all these backup generators and all these things that you don't need in other places because the electrical grid is so shaky. And so you can kind of see these examples sort of throughout his catalog. But I think this particular album is the most overtly political, and I would suspect that some of that just has to do with power. When you're kind of one of the most popular recording artists in the world, I think you get to make the kind of music that you want, and that's probably why this one is the most unique. The fact that he had both salsa songs and plena songs had become #1 in the world, I think that just in itself is really political. And it's been really exciting too, because young people have been taking salsa lessons, for the first time and learning how to dance. And so I think that's political too. Just even the fact that he's never tried to be a crossover hit by singing in English and has always continued to speak in Spanish. So I'd also say that even if he's not overtly political in that way, that even just being himself in the way in which he has done this has really been kind of a feature of his career. Yes. Why the name Bad Bunny? There's like some photo of him as a kid in like this bunny outfit, and he looks angry or upset. And so supposedly that's why Bad Bunny is the name. There's a funny, he was on the Colbert Show. Clearly I watched like every show Bad Bunny's ever been on, in case you were wondering, which is why I have all these like off the top of my head. But he was at the Colbert Show, and Colbert asked him, he's like, I've been told to call you Benito. He's like, but you're Bad Bunny. He's like, who's Bad Bunny? Who's Benito? And Bad Bunny says, it's a stage name, but it was kind of a persona. It was something that allowed him to be someone different on stage. And he says that as he's gained confidence as a person, as a performer, there's maybe not as much of a difference between Benito and Bad Bunny as there used to be. Other questions? Okay, well, we'll wait. Oh, in the back. Okay, Campbell. Oh, gosh, that's so good. Well, I will say I love this album as a whole. It was released January 5th, which is kind of an important day for Puerto Ricans, because January 6th is Three Kings Day, which is our kind of big celebration of Epiphany after Christmas, but it's quite a party, and it was really that kind of a gift for me last year with everything that was going on this year. And I don't think I've ever listened to an album in its totality the way I listened to this album, and so I really love it. And if anyone wants like a Bad Bunny starter pack, I can give you a playlist. And I think I've had a different favorite song on this album kind of all year. So I would recommend this album in full. Yes.
Try and pick your brain. Do you know why he's covered these like samples? The Shout at the Door song on Monaco.
Which?
The song Monaco.
Uh-huh.
Starts and ends with the classic French song Hier Encore. I just didn't know if there's a significance.
Okay, so the question was about the song Monaco and if there was a significance about a particular sample in that song. I actually am not sure. Off the top of my head, I haven't really studied that song. But I can get back to you. We can talk later. I have a new book I just got that kind of examines his entire catalog that I'm excited to read. Anyone else? Yes?
You sing along with songs at your house?
Yes. I sing. The question is, do I sing along with the songs in my house? Yes. And no, I would not like to sing any of the Bad Bunny songs now, but maybe we'll find some songs to kind of play us out. But and also you got to dance to Bad Bunny. I hope everyone during the Super Bowl enjoys singing and dancing. Yes, John.
Drag Bad Bunny. Drag back.
Well, the question was about Drag Bad Bunny, but I did want to note that actually that is one of the things that some sectors of society have been kind of in a bit of a tizzy about Bad Bunny, because he actually is pretty gender fluid with his dress and his gender expression on stage and in at award shows and things like that. And so that's just kind of another thing about him and about his performance that some people have been pointing to, because there was I heard this like rumor last week that everyone was not everyone, certain people were in a tizzy because he might be wearing a dress at the Super Bowl. And it was, so anyway, but, oh, and before we go, I wanted to explain about the bava, which is this hat. So, Andy very kindly wore this hat at the beginning for me. I have these, I have like 4 of them at my house. We always wore them growing up, like at Christmas. And you'll see Bad Bunny wearing them like on stage and in photographs and things like that. It's kind of a traditional symbol of the Hibaro, which is kind of this sort of idealized peasant who's in the mountains, rural. And it's been critiqued for maybe erasing a little bit of the, for being kind of more of a white figure and kind of erasing some of the Afro Puerto Rican heritage. But generally, this is just an important symbol of the past and of the culture that he's attempting to preserve. So that's why this hat is so important. I'm sure you will see it at the Super Bowl. So, any other questions? Yes. The question was, when he's singing at the Super Bowl, if there will be English words in the bottom. I would doubt it. Although Apple has a new feature that you can like hear translations through your AirPods now, and it also on Apple Music translates words. If you're interested in translations, there are people have been putting them up on like YouTube. But I would respectfully suggest to everyone that you do not need to know English to appreciate and experience it, and that one of the things I was trying to convey when I was talking about the kinds of music he's using is that he's communicating a message through everything he does, through what he wears, through the rhythms, through the dancing, through the images that you will see on stage. And so I think that there's a lot to take in, even if maybe the words he's saying aren't something that you necessarily understand. And I have really close friends I have a close friend who's Colombian, and we had to have a conversation about something he had said in one of his songs because she thought it meant something different than it actually means because, she's not Puerto Rican. And so even among people who speak Spanish, maybe you might need to look a little closer to like decode, exactly what he's saying. But I think that even if that's maybe a different layer of understanding, and there's a lot of different ways to kind of access and enjoy his music. All right, well, I think we're at time, and thank you for being here.